The film begins with the protagonist Victor, accompanied by his friend Darcy, who recounts how his life has changed since becoming a father. Soon after, they receive a call and are instructed to go to their superior Alphonse's residence. Upon arriving there, they encounter a refrigerator in the basement and upon opening it, discover the corpse of one of Alphonse's henchmen named Paul. Additionally, they find a note with the numbers 719 and a key to open a briefcase which contains photographs of Alphonse being threatened for some time, giving him an idea of who might be responsible. Hey, the movie I'm going to summarize is D3ad Man D0wn. If you've watched it, comment. If you haven't, leave a like. But before continuing, I invite you to subscribe to the channel to receive the best summaries. Continuing, the comrade visits his friend Harry's club, unaware of anything. However, Alphonse discovers that Harry's handwriting is practically identical to that on the note and shoots him in the head. A violent shootout then ensues between Alphonse's men and Jamaicans. Alphonse ends up cornered, but Victor saves his life by single-handedly killing 3 men, thus gaining his trust. One day, Victor observes through the window and notices that his neighbor, Beatrice, is watching him. She is an enigmatic young woman who lives in the apartment across the street, along with her mother. Beatrice starts communicating with Victor and shows interest in him. She leaves a note with her number in his mailbox. He calls her, and she suggests they meet to get to know each other better. On their first meeting, they begin to get to know each other more deeply. However, she asks that they go for a car ride and reveals her true intentions. She has a video of Victor killing a man and wants him to kill the drunk driver who disfigured her in a car accident, otherwise she will go to the police. She starts to go crazy and insists that he go kill the man. To silence her, he grabs his gun and accidentally fires at the window, quickly leaving the scene. When they reach an intersection, she says he will have to accept her proposal or kill her, and gets out of the car. When she returns home and picks up a newspaper, we discover that the drunk driver was imprisoned for only 3 weeks. The next day, Victor and an old friend named Gregor head to an arms dealer to acquire a precision rifle. Gregor asks why Victor is still collaborating with Alphonse after so long, considering that his goal is to kill Alphonse himself. We discover the truth about Victor's past. He infiltrated the criminal empire led by the ruthless boss, with the purpose of making the boss pay for the murder of his wife 2 years ago. The boss, in turn, had ordered the accidental death of Victor's daughter. Victor then goes to an abandoned ship, where he offers food and drink to a man he had kidnapped. It is Ilir's brother, an Albanian chief involved in helping Alphonse eliminate Victor's family. Victor's plan is to unite the Albanian forces with Alphonse's men, in order to be able to eliminate them more easily. Later, he visits Beatrice to discuss the man he must assassinate. For a few days, Victor has been following this man, and he tells Beatrice that he still needs more time. Meanwhile, Beatrice's mother shows Victor photographs of Beatrice before the accident, when she was a beautiful girl. Victor then overhears a conversation between Alphonse and one of his business partners named Lon. Lon reprimands Alphonse for killing Harry and his men. In the meantime, Victor positions himself in a building with a precision rifle to assassinate Alphonse. Lon reveals having received the photos of Alphonse along with a note addressed to him. Additionally, Lon reveals having received a key and asks Victor if he knows anything about it. When Alphonse reads the 2 notes together, he realizes that it wasn't Harry who threatened him, but someone else. Meanwhile, Beatrice is in the car and spots Victor in the building. Lon informs Alphonse that he can no longer manage his business due to his dangerous situation, which could put the company at risk. Darcy investigates the origin of the threats and orders his men to warn Alphonse about the danger he's in. When Alphonse leaves the restaurant, Victor kills his driver and sends him a message asking if he received the key. Victor then initiates an escape, while Alphonse's henchmen try to capture him. Upon entering the building, Victor uses a rope to strangle one of the henchmen and throws him out the window. While eliminating other enemies, Victor tries to escape through the streets when Beatrice arrives by car to help him. He gets into the vehicle and Alphonse's henchmen start chasing them. A few blocks away, she parks and they start kissing when the men approach the car. Darcy opens the door and Victor confusedly states that he had just arrived. Darcy and the others go to Alphonse to inform him that the shooter escaped in a taxi. Alphonse orders them to find out where the taxi is going and leaves. Then Victor leaves with Darcy, who is determined to help Alphonse climb the crime hierarchy. Later, Alphonse uses the key to open a mailbox where he finds the missing pieces for a specific photo. When Victor returns home, he calls Beatrice. She visits him and he questions if she followed him. Beatrice denies it but says she helped. As they talk, Victor recounts how Alphonse killed his family and now he seeks revenge. She asks if there has been any progress in eliminating the man who ruined her face. But he responds that not yet. One night, he waits for the culprit to leave home so he can silently infiltrate his property. Meanwhile, Alphonse discovers a hidden microphone in his phone. The next morning, Victor goes to an abandoned warehouse, which serves as Alphonse's gang headquarters. He goes up to the attic to check the explosives he installed, when at that moment, Alphonse and his men arrive. After finding a problem with the remote control, he comes down from the attic and joins the others. Then Victor contacts Gregor, who informs that he needs to be close to the warehouse to detonate everything, otherwise he will have to change the plans. Victor declares that he doesn't have time to change everything, so he'll have to risk it. Meanwhile, Beatrice makes a surprise visit to Victor and ends up discovering his room, where he is planning everything. He reveals that he fought in the war. Realizing that he is risking his own life for revenge, Beatrice is disturbed as she has feelings for him. Then Ilir, the leader of the Albanian gang, receives a package containing a photo of his kidnapped brother. Like Alphonse, he also receives a photo of Victor's family that needs to be assembled. Later that night, Darcy rings Victor's intercom and reveals that he found the shooter who wanted to assassinate Alphonse. The two head to the place where the taxi driver had taken Paul before he was killed. However, they don't find anything useful, and Victor informs Darcy that he needs to leave. During the night, Victor goes to the abandoned warehouse, but finds Alphonse and his men. Alphonse, aware that the threats are coming from someone in his own group, sets up an ambush to identify anyone who appears at the safe house and consider them a traitor. When Victor appears, Alphonse threatens him, saying he will find what the author of the threats loves most and burn it. However, due to the fact that Victor had previously saved Alphonse's life, he is reluctant to believe that Victor is the traitor and takes no action. Later, Victor goes to his hostage and asks him to record a video in exchange for his freedom, stating that he is being held hostage by Alphonse. Victor then releases the rats to devour him, but changes his mind and shoots him to end his suffering. He then meets Beatrice and asks her to send the recording to Ilir in order to make it appear that Alphonse betrayed and kidnapped his brother. Victor meets with Darcy, who is still investigating Paul's death. Darcy reveals that Paul was looking for the grave of a Hungarian man, but still doesn't know the reason behind it. Victor then meets with Gregor and reveals that Darcy is about to discover the grave, which means they are close to discovering the truth. Gregor tells him there's still time to run, but he knows it's difficult for Victor to leave everything behind. One day, as Beatrice walks down the street, some boys throw stones at her, causing her to fall and hurt her head. When Victor goes to visit her and sees the injury, she simply says she fell. She informs that she sent the video to Ilir. When he's about to leave, he invites her on another date, which she accepts. Darcy calls Victor and reveals that the man threatening Alphonse and kidnapping Ilir's brother might be a Hungarian named Laszlo Kerik, the man they believe to have murdered, along with his family. The problem is that Victor is actually Laszlo Kerik, and he changed his name to avoid suspicion from the gang. During the night, Victor goes to pick up Beatrice for a date. He informs that he finally plans to assassinate the man who disfigured her face. He also confesses that he doesn't love her when she admits having feelings for him. He states that they can't have a future together. They arrive at the bar that the drunk man usually frequents, and when he leaves, Victor shoots him. After the act, Victor takes Beatrice back home. Meanwhile, Alphonse and his men follow Darcy to the cemetery, where they discover Laszlo's grave. The next day, Ilir receives a package. Alphonse calls him to ask if he's sure Laszlo is dead. Beatrice receives a letter informing that Victor didn't kill the driver so they could spend more time together, aware of the psychological effect the murder would have on her. Elsewhere, Victor prepares explosives in the gang's warehouse and elaborates a plan for the arrival of the Albanians and Alphonse. Darcy arrives at Victor's house to pick him up, but as he doesn't respond, he breaks down the door and enters the residence. Beatrice reveals in a phone call to Victor that she didn't send the video, as she didn't want to see him die. She proposes to him that they run away together. Darcy discovers Victor's true intentions while investigating his apartment. When Beatrice returns home, Darcy subdues her. He takes her phone and makes a call to Victor, Laszlo, saying that everyone is waiting for him at Alphonse's residence. Victor heads towards Alphonse's house, where the Albanians are also housed. As all the phones in the house start ringing, Victor bursts into the residence with his car. Then a shootout begins. Victor kills all the henchmen in the confrontation, except Darcy, whose life he spares. Victor heads to the location where Beatrice is being held hostage, on the top floor, by Alphonse and Elir. She manages to escape their surveillance, while Victor distracts them by shooting and starts playing the tape on a computer. When Elir hears the recording, he points the gun at Alphonse, believing he betrayed him. Alphonse raises his gun to defend himself, and furious, orders him to lower the gun, but both end up shooting each other. As Victor escapes with Beatrice, Darcy confronts them with a gun in hand. When asked if he spared Darcy because he has a wife and child, Victor responds that no, but because they have him. Darcy lowers the gun and allows the two to leave. Victor and Beatrice return home by subway and kiss, and so the movie ends. If you've watched until here, I invite you to not only leave a like, but also activate the bell to be notified when new summaries are released here on the channel.